And we are live. I'm joined here with my good pal Reckless Trucker. How are you doing today?
Living my best life.
And we are here to review Prehistoric Planet Season 2, which we've both watched.
It's got dinosaurs and stuff, man.
It does have dinosaurs and stuff, and that's what's really cool about it. There's dinosaurs in this program. Lots of them.
So, yeah, I liked it a lot.
What's that?
So yeah, I liked it a lot, man.
Yes. All right. Yeah, we both agree we love the show, but would you say you liked it better than season one, a little bit worse, or would you say the same?
About the same. They were both really great dinosaurs, and Attenborough being his British self.
Right. I would say in some ways I like this season more. One thing I think it did better than season one was it kind of was better balanced in terms of the variety of life around in the Maastrichtian. Because like the first season, I was kind of annoyed at its lack of mammals and crocodiliforms and other strange life forms, but Prehistoric Planet Season 2 seems to spend more time on more lesser-known creatures. Ammonites get a lot of time. You get a whole segment about a Cretaceous mammal, and a few really cool crocodiliforms at the time get time in this season.
I liked that they visited Madagascar. That was dope.
Yeah, the first season also had a scene in Madagascar. That scene with Beelzebub eats a baby dinosaur. That was in Madagascar.
Did you see they brought back Beelzebub? He came back?
Yes, they did bring back Beelzebub, the biggest frog of all time, the devil toad.
I love that. He's dope.
Yeah, it was found in Madagascar. What's weird about Beelzebub is even though it was found in Madagascar, it has features that are only similar to frogs that are only found today in South America, and no one knows exactly why.
But can't that homeboy like hibernate long periods of time?
Possibly, but I'm wondering. But it kind of the group that's called, which are actually hilariously called Pac-Man frogs, are today only found like in South America. But Beelzebub, the biggest frog of all time, had clear features of one of this group of frogs, but it was but it was found in Madagascar in the late Cretaceous.
Oh yeah, and it's massive too, man.
Yeah,
but I really liked. Yeah.
Beelzebub was a bit over 20 pounds, which the biggest frog alive today, the Goliath, the African bullfrog, only weighs about 8 pounds. So Beelzebub was almost 3 times bigger than the biggest frog alive today.
He couldn't hop around either. He was too fat.
No, it could hop.
He could sort of hop. Not great.
No. We don't exactly know how well it was at a hop because the remains of it are a bit fragmentary, but it probably could hop.
No, they did a great video of him walking, and there's lots of. I like the Quetzalcoatlus also, and the what was the big one in the beginning?
Hapsagopteryx.
Him running around. It seems like they split the stories up more. But they followed a lot of the stories, like they came back to a lot of previous stories.
Yeah, it did. I would say it fixed some of the flaws. Another thing is it's a bit more action oriented. There's a bit more chase sequences and hunting sequences are a bit more a part of season 2 than of season 1. Where season 1 was a bit more weighted towards like dinosaurs and pterosaurs like doing mating displays.
Yeah, they still had like the hadrosaur. You know, he fought, killed, and got a mate. So that was pretty awesome.
The Hapsagopteryx. They kind of, I guess because it's an older male, they kind of give it like a really colorful design that like the younger males, I guess, don't have. Something like they only get when they reach peak sexual maturity.
right? The one I was hoping to see was the Triceratops, because how does all that weight do that job?
Yeah, we got a scene with the Triceratops, which probably shows them using their frills and their horns in kind of battles for mates and displays, which probably is exactly what they were for.
No, I mean, like, how do they rub cloacas with all that body mass?
How do they what?
How do they rub cloacas with all that body mass?
Turtles manage when turtle has a penis like half as long as the rest of its body.
Dude, turtle penises are wild. What if that's what dinosaurs had?
Probably. Someone in the comments is asking me if I've seen Amazing Dino World 2. No, I have not seen the entire program, but I haven't seen anything dubbed in English. But I did see a couple clips of it, and I would say that the animation of it looked decent. I mean, like a decade behind Prehistoric Planet, but decent computer animation. But some of the scenes kind of looked like they were going for cartoony shit. It features these Mayops, which are a kind of a Megaraptoran, and it has them like there's three of them try to like take down an enormous Titanosaur that's like 10 times its size, which alone is fucking stupid. But the way they do it
doesn't go well.
It has them flying through the air and like trying to slash the thing. So it says very little about Japanese documentaries when even the dinosaurs in these programs got to be all kung fu fighting.
That's hilarious.
Thank you. I'm here all night.
Who is Electric Dino? I like him.
He's a subscriber of mine. I've seen him before, but both those. I'm sure it's a lot better than Dinosaur Stephen Fry. My God, was that program?
No, this one. There were very few moments where certain things were kind of goofy, like certain CGI was, but very rarely.
You talking about the Austroraptor?
Yeah, but also the most blaring one for me was the Ammonites. At one point, the baby Ammonites were just kind of goofy.
Kind of.
It was only for like 20 seconds, but not even 10 seconds.
I think they probably did look like that, though. Well, they were a cephalopod, and you can kind of they're probably similar to like if you look at like infant like hatchling cephalopods today, they kind of look kind of similar to that, but without the shell.
No, I know that, but it didn't look the same as they do. I've seen squids and octopus babies in person and stuff. And I don't know, the CGI there was this one scene where they're floating in the newly deep water, waiting for the tide.
Yeah.
Bouncing between the rocks and the tide.
Yeah.
And for like a 10-second clip, it just looked really goofy, the CGI. Most of it was great, though.
Yeah, I'll agree. There were a couple moments where it looked goofy. The Oceans episode had a lot of kind of like cool imagery. I love it's showing the mosasaur hunt, but it did.
Oh yeah.
It did kind of give me probably a kind of criticism I have for both seasons. Really, this season, the last, it's too bloodless. And I don't say that because I like seeing lots of gore. I don't particularly, but it kind of annoys me that creatures don't shed a lot of blood in scenes they probably would if this were an actual nature documentary.
Oh yeah, like the plesiosaur morph that he rammed into.
Yeah, you can see it dead in the water after being killed, but there's no blood in the water.
No, that water should be looking like Kool-Aid by now.
Yeah,
being rammed into at like 30 miles an hour.
Yeah, it obviously was based on great white sharks, and when they hunt you, when they breach from the water to catch a seal. So it's obviously was like inspired by that. But if you look at those hunts from a real nature documentary, there's blood in the water.
Just thrashing about, looking like a bad 1980s movie scene.
Well, yeah, and the first season had an even bigger moment with the problem. The Ice World hunt, at the end of it, there was a scene where where the Nanosaurus are all mobbing this Pachycephalosaurus. Attenborough kind of sets it up like like it's going to be a major fight, and he says he has no choice but to turn around and face his attackers. But then he just dies really quickly without bleeding. That should have been like gone on for another couple minutes of the thing really fighting back.
Well, it seems like the only time they're willing to put blood on screen is when it's on like scales. Because, like, dry scales, I should say, even. Because in, like, wet stuff and feathers, they don't put it on there much.
And from what I read, you can kind of thank Jon Favreau for that, because early on, a lot of the people involved in it actually did want to make it more bloody. Like, a good example, you remember the sauropod fight of the two Dreadnoughtus battling in season 1?
Yeah, they should have been battered and bleeding.
The original plan for how that fight would end was the one sauropod. You know how they inflated those inflatable throat sacs? One of them was going to bite into it and rip the throat sac off, and it was going to cause it to bleed to death.
That would end any fight real quick, I suppose.
Yeah, and honestly, they should have done it that way, because it didn't really make much sense that the old male kind of dies after that. I mean, what killed him? I mean, he just fell over. He should have been able to get up.
Good. No, that should have been like ripped out, ran away from battle, and died 3 days later injury.
Well, I guess he died from like a shattered rib or something from the other, like it busted his rib when he did. He couldn't get back up.
All right, Electric Dino. Jurassic Fight Club is always awful.
Jurassic Fight Club's a piece of shit. I mean, yeah, that probably maybe the worst. Second worst dinosaur documentary of all time, the worst being Dinosaur with Stephen Fry.
Oh, God, yeah. Oh. No, but also, hit that like button, please.
Yes. Hit that like button, share the stream, yada, yada, yada.
No, they had a lot more diversity of animals and stuff. I forgot what mammal they had. I don't know why I'm having a brain fart right now, bro.
The animal, Adeltherium, I think it was called. Yeah, it was actually one of the biggest mammals of the time. It was a little bigger than a house cat, so not that big by today's standards, but it was one of the biggest then. It came from a group called Guanwanathirs, which actually did survive the end Cretaceous mass extinction, but died out like a few million years later.
Yeah, no, they had the burrowing one. Is that the burrowing one laying eggs?
Yeah, because it was from an early. It was from like an early mammal branching. It wasn't. It was not a close relative of any living mammal.
No, I really liked that one. It was great. Searching for food at night, avoiding predators, and then getting caught almost.
I thought the scene with the snake was awesome. I love that. Sometimes the hunter becomes the hunted.
I love how the snake, at the end too, they had the snake just like lethargically laying there, watching them walk by, and it's like, yeah, after eating something that big, anybody would just be passed out.
Yeah.
Especially snakes.
It wraps around. Because, yeah, snakes were around back then. Snakes, actually, they think may have been maybe older than previously thought. They actually might have, like dated back to the beginning of the Cretaceous.
Impressive.
Yeah. And of course, they found one 25-footer in Madagascar, and they have to eat a dinosaur.
Yeah, that was dope.
Yeah, it was a scene that was really like shocking and impressive, but also being scientifically plausible. The snakes do that.
The CGI and everything was really well done too.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, no, anacondas today will get after like adult capybaras and stuff, and so size matches up. It could definitely eat it.
Yeah, the Machikosaurus, the dinosaur today, was not a very big dinosaur, so a 25-foot snake could easily eat it.
I do like how they displayed in the after uncovering Prehistoric Planet or whatever, talking about the large flying pterosaurs, how they walked and how their methodology actually could work.
Right. They were too big. They were too big to like catch anything on the wing, but they probably were like ground hunters, where they kind of would stalk things on the ground. And I love how it showed the hunt where you have those small hadrosaurs. I forgot what they were called. Shit. But they're kind of a dwarf kind of hadrosaur on one of these islands. They were barely bigger than a human, and to them, like the massive Hapsogopteryx was like the top predator, like death from above.
Yeah, they were a island dwarfism variant of them. They were like about the size of a human, and then those were the babies of them.
Yeah,
And
so
it was stalking around like kind of like a predatory giraffe. Very terrifying.
Oh yeah, that whole scene is fantastic tension to it. You know, you want these little baby dinos to escape the massive Hapsogopteryx.
And I like that a lot of the time they didn't pull their punches, and they did just like they killed off something.
Right. Yeah, they were willing to kill off things. They weren't willing to show blood and gore, but they were willing to definitely kill off a lot of baby dinos.
Yeah. I really like that they showed Quetzalcoatl and other large variants of them. I'm so bad at pronunciation. They had the flyer with the beautiful bill, the giant one on the island.
Hapsogopteryx?
Hadrogopteryx. Him, Hadra. I'm going to call him Hadra.
Okay. Because they actually were, and on some of these, Europe was kind of a chain of small islands at the time, and on these islands, they've never found any like large predatory dinosaurs because there probably weren't any. So, kind of like Hapsogopteryx was kind of the top predator of the island chain.
Oh, and they were massive, and they could definitely fight. And like whenever they fought off those creatures, or whenever the Quetzalcoatl went after T-Rex,
yeah.
I could definitely see that happening because today, like vultures, a handful of vultures will take on a single lion or cheetah or something and totally win.
Yeah, like it kind of reminded me. There was a scene where this group of Arctic terns kind of protected their eggs by kind of like dive bombing and harassing a polar bear until it left. The size difference between those things and the polar bear was even greater than the size difference between Quetzalcoatlus and the Tyrannosaur.
Right. Hello, Alex Lamons.
Hello, Alex. Alex, how's it going?
Hit like, buddy, please.
Yeah, if anyone's seen the show and wants to come on, hit me up on Twitter, and you can definitely jump on if you want.
You could also send him inappropriate messages for HR.
Yeah, that too. There was
You can send me inappropriate jokes for HR. I'll accept those.
Right. What else? I love that we finally got a Tyrannosaur hunt.
That was awesome.
Third episode. I love the way the hunt was done because it shows Tyrannosaurus Rex as a really intelligent ambush predator.
Well, you have to have some brains. Ain't no way you're hiding that whole body without thinking.
Yeah, and it makes sense that it would choose to hunt them at night rather than doing it in the day, because obviously at night the element of surprise would be a lot easier to achieve.
What was the name of the one? The T-Rex morph, Tyrannosaur morph in the Arctic areas?
Oh, that would be Nanosaurus.
Nanosaurus. Yeah, they have something like him that I play on that Ark Survival Evolved game that I really like, but he only shows up in caves.
Uh-huh.
And I really like that because a more agile T-Rex is pretty awesome.
Yeah, Nanosaurus was a lot smaller, like 4 times smaller than Tyrannosaurus Rex, and definitely faster and more agile. It had to be because it lived in an area where it didn't have anything to cover. There weren't any like swamps or trees in where it lived, so it had to chase prey down in more open areas. Therefore, it had to be faster. Tyrannosaurus Rex wouldn't be able to survive in such an open area.
Right, kind of like a polar bear when it finds a young calf alone or something like that.
Right. Yeah, Nanosaurus was another Tyrannosaurine.
It was great. I really like the visuals on its legs and its running.
Yeah. Though I would
Very
say
well done.
the sketch was kind of similar to one from season 1 where they have another tyrannosaurine, their Ginzusaurus. Basically, it followed a similar formula. First hunt tries, it fails. Second hunt, it succeeds. It was kind of a weird point to end the series on that, though. Is the thing.
Well, real quick to Alex in the chat. I don't know if I'd say animal intelligence is more abstract. Like, I think abstract thinking is the only thing that leads to like depression. Not the only thing, but because we have abstract thinking, depression is more viable.
Yes.
I think animals have the opposite of that, a more physical, in the moment thinking.
Right.
Unless you see like a sad bear, that does happen sometimes.
Yeah. So I mentioned the Pachycephalosaurs. Yeah, that was another thing I really liked. Was that was a weird omission from season 1. I'm like, what? The Pachycephalosaurs didn't make any appearance on it, even though they were in the lake in the very end of the Cretaceous. But
they were also super common, weren't they?
Yeah, we found like a few specimens of them. Yeah, and they're in the same formation as Tyrannosaurus Rex, the Hell Creek Formation. So that yeah, they were a pretty common dino, and they had kind of really thick bony heads that they used kind of in territorial combat, as you see in the episode.
How tall was Paki?
Probably like 5 feet tall at the shoulder.
T-Rex was like what, 15, 14?
Well, yeah, obviously. If one of those things fought Tyrannosaur, it'd run for its life.
Nah, dude, imagine, because they're in herds like rams are, them ramming his 15-foot tall ankle bone.
It probably
he's running.
It probably wouldn't do too much damage. It would probably be a suicidal charge.
Yeah, but what if like 4 of them did it? They could totally kill one. A lot of that's what bighorns do in the wild when they're in herds.
Yeah, but I don't think they were smart enough to like do anything coordinated like that.
I don't know if you have to be smart. You just have to be aggressive as all hell.
Yeah. Right. The only thing that was kind of dubious about the series in general on a scientific level is it mentions at the beginning, Attenborough says this is all set 66 million years ago, but there are a lot of creatures in it where it's a bit dubious that they actually lived 66 million years ago. There's a lot of creatures that dated to like 68, 69, or over 70 million years ago.
That's a long time to assume a creature would continue. What they really should have done, I think, was put like, to be fair, it'd be impossible to put an exact time. They could have said around 67.
Right.
But, you can also think of those things as like later on down the road morphic versions of Triceratops.
No, Triceratops.
Kind of like how cows today are definitely still aurochs.
Oh, Triceratops was one that was definitely around 66 million years ago. There was Triceratops, Tyrannosaurus Rex, Quetzalcoatlus, Mosasaurus.
I know, but you get what I mean.
Right. Yeah.
Like, it could have been from that lineage.
Right. But a few that were kind of dubious. You see it in the Islands episode in Pyribator, on that island chasing, what was it? A Melusaur, a type of ornithischian through the snow. It was a cool sequence, but in Pyribator, the one fossil we found of it dated to 71 million years ago. So it's probably too old to be in this show.
What about the scythe-eating plesiosaur that went to the Arctic?
I'm not sure about that one. That one, it could have been. Tyrannosaurus, the one that the Mosasaurus hunts, also dates a few million years before the series is supposed to. Carnotaurus, the one fossil found, was about 69 million years ago. So most of them, all the creatures in it come from like the last 5 million years of the Cretaceous, roughly, but kind of. But whether they were still around at the very end of the Cretaceous 66 million years ago is a bit dubious. I mean, they certainly could have been, but there's no evidence of it.
I would love if they can bother to get the money for it again. Do a series that is based like as the meteorite hits a lot of these same creatures, and then introduce a few million years later the giant terror bird-like birds. They weren't terror birds though, and small mammals that develop into lots of other things later.
So they could do maybe a series set in the Eocene or maybe even in the Pleistocene, something like that.
Yeah, just set up another series, but with mammals and scary lizards and birds that survived.
Yeah,
I don't know. Split the series in half.
There's a lot of time periods you can set it. The problem is the fossil record is so incomplete that doing a series of this scale using only creatures from one very particular time period, 66 million years ago, is kind of difficult. So taking period ones from slightly earlier periods kind of might be necessary to have a wide variety of creatures for the show.
Right.
Another one, Dreadnoughtus from the last season, dates to over 70 million years ago, and Tartopelto, 71 million years ago, Velociraptor, over 1 million years ago.
Which one was the one that they found a entire hive of clutches in the volcanoes?
Oh, of the Isosaurs?
Yeah.
Also around 70 million years ago.
Then.
Well, that's another thing that might be inaccurate because they think that the volcanic activity, that actually is true, that there was like evidence of a lot of volcanic activity in India at the time. It was an island. But because of that, they think a lot of the creatures in that segment probably were extinct before the asteroid, because volcanic activity made the area very inhospitable.
Yeah, that was one thing that was a bit wild to me, was these creatures. Like, I could see there being scenarios where they'd have to walk through methane, but having it be a seasonal return to a nesting ground seems a bit much.
There are lizards that do that today, though. Like there's some type of iguanas that actually go into like the hole of a volcano and lay their eggs near it because they want the volcano to heat up their eggs.
Right, no, I get that, like geysers and stuff, but I mean, like, they go into the middle of an active one?
Well, there was some fossil evidence that they might have done that a lot of creatures use like the heat of the earth and like volcanic.
I mean, those iguanas, like, do they do it like inside of one or like?
Yeah, like in the crater of a volcano. So yeah, some iguanas do that, and obviously in the case of sauropods, they obviously couldn't like sit on and brood their nests the way birds do today. So they would have had to find like another way to keep their nests warm. Either they could have like used like fermenting plants to like try to heat up the air, heat it up, or maybe the heat of a volcano. So they had to find ways around that limitation. Right. Yeah.
Also, what was interesting too was the babies eating the mom's poop was interesting. It's weird. It sounds weird to say that, but like, there's plenty of animals alive today that do that, koalas and stuff. But those tend to be more long-term to take care of, don't they? No, there's reptiles in Australia that do that, right?
Yeah, there are. And it kind of made sense that it gave them like certain kind of like hormones from their parents that would help them identify their herd when they're big enough.
Yeah, no, they got a good smell of the family, and they got this family stomach bacteria, stuff like that.
Even though, of course, there's evidence sauropods probably were not animals that took care of their offspring too much. They probably did just lay their eggs and have them fend for themselves like sea turtles.
Now, but I do imagine that, especially on an island like India used to be, they definitely ran into each other's herds a lot, and I don't know if they'd be smart enough to recognize each other's herds, though. Maybe they were.
Maybe not, but they could have probably like smelled a certain smell that would like indicate that these are like of our close kin.
Yeah, like more friendly smells.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah. That whole sequence with them like going off the treacherous volcanic wasteland and having their necks raise them just above the volcanic gas. That whole sequence was amazing. Like, wow.
Well, I do know for a fact there have been people who were going to study like sulfuric springs and stuff.
Yeah.
One guy bent down to tie his shoes and died right then and there.
Damn.
So that's a very real possibility whenever you're traversing such dangerous areas.
Yeah.
Like you just bend down and it's all methane and you die instantly.
And another thing worth knowing about the sequence, the Rajasaurs, the Abelisaurs that come to try to eat the hatchlings. One thing that they fixed in season 2 about Belissaurs, in the first season, the Carnotaurus, its scales are shown in kind of like rows around down its back. But then a study came out like a few months before the show came out that showed that was inaccurate, and their scales had a more random distribution, and they took that science and corrected it for the 2 Abelisaurs that appear in season 2, the Rajasaurus and the Majungasaurus. If you notice that their scales are in a random distribution, the way that study founded that. But of course, can't blame the creators of the show for making that mistake in the first season because the study didn't come out till like well into production.
Oh, I will say also in this season, more of the dinosaurs got laid. I'm proud of them.
Yeah, no rejection like the Carnotaur got that incel Carnotaur.
I felt so bad for him. He was so like, oh.
Honestly, the Carnotaur dance sequence in season 1 maybe my favorite scene in the series so far. I love that scene.
Poor guy is trying so hard.
Yeah, him using the small hands as like a display was just adorable.
Oh man, it was great.
And it makes sense because their hands were useless for digging or for hunting. They didn't even have any claws on them. So what the hell were they for? Why do Belissaurs keep them unless they use them for some kind of display?
Yeah, did they? How long did their lineage hold on to those past useless?
For a long time, for like for pretty much the entire Cretaceous.
All right, so bajillions of years.
Oh yes, quite a while. Belissaurs are actually they're an early splitting among theropods. So that like Tyrannosaurus Rex was closer related to birds than it would have been to a Belissaurus.
Yeah,
because they split from Coelurosaurian or Carnosaurian theropods way back in the late Triassic, and they lasted all the way to the very end of the Cretaceous.
Yeah, it's pretty great. One I'd like to see done in a documentary one day would be like a Protoceratops.
Protoceratops lived a little bit too old to appear in this show, but then again, so did Velociraptor, and they put it in here anyway.
I do wonder if they're going to do more of the series because I mean they definitely made back. I think they definitely made back enough money to hire Attenborough again.
Oh, if you listen to like the official podcast, I actually listened to the entire thing. They talked about working with Attenborough, and Attenborough was, he loved narrating the show. He's like, another episode, and they're like, that's it. Or he's like, aw.
Oh man, they might definitely get another episode. That would be great. And with him being Attenborough's going to be an idea guy. He might just say something wild.
Yeah, he's not. Yeah, you got to admire the man's commitment. He's 97 years old, and he's still pumping out like 4 or 5 of these great documentaries every year. Like he's got, like on Netflix, actually, just a couple weeks. There's Our Planet 2 is premiering, which is a sequel to Prehistoric Planet set 66 million years later.
You could think about it that way. Attenborough is like the omnipotent narrator.
Right, yes.
As life goes on.
But yeah, I'd love to see. There's another cool independent documentary that's doing the early Miocene in Nebraska, Forgotten Bloodlines. Obviously since it's an independent project, it's nowhere near as visually stunning as Prehistoric Planet. But I love that an independent filmmaker could take on like a period of time that no one else has like covered.
Right? I wonder if he's going to use the terrifying powers of AI.
From what I
That
hear,
would actually be really awesome.
From what I hear, they're animating in with Blender. You don't want to animate it with have AI generate it, then it will give every animal 6 legs or some shit.
Yeah, no, AI art is the very reason why I'm not afraid of AI. It's goofy as fuck.
It has trouble.
But
it can,
so they're doing it in Blender.
But it can't comprehend the humans of 5 fingers.
It's not always where they have them.
Yeah.
No, but so have they mentioned anything about a 3rd season?
No. No mention of a 3rd season, but who knows? Because from what I hear, most of season 2 was made up of material that what was like planned to use in season 1, but was kind of like they couldn't make it at the time. And there was evidence of that for a while, because way back last year, like shortly after season 1 premiered, a bunch of storyboards for the show leaked on the internet, and it showed a bunch of scenes that were not in the 1st season. And sure enough, a whole bunch of them were in season 2.
Right. Have they mentioned anything about being open to a 3rd season?
It's certainly possible, but there's like no official word or anything. I'm kind of hoping if they make a 3rd season, I'm kind of hoping they move on to a different time period.
Same here.
Either maybe an earlier point in the Cretaceous, maybe you could do one in the Jurassic period, or maybe after. There's a whole bunch of other time periods, but I kind of felt season 2, these 2 seasons have kind of exhausted the Maastrichtian.
Right.
But then again, of course, we only know of like 1% of all the animals that were around in the Maastrichtian. If you actually were to travel 66 million years ago, 99% of the species you'd encounter would be ones we've never found any fossils of.
Yeah, I was gonna say, what if you just all those animals are persistently endangered because they keep getting fossilized? They keep living in areas that nearly kill them.
Well, it's not
so
really
they're super rare. That would be pretty funny.
Well, that the areas kill them. Like some environments, there's a reason why there's no jungles episode of this series, because jungles are terrible places for fossilization.
Oh yeah.
So what creatures were around in the jungles at the time are pretty much unknown to us. And there's no mountains episode either, because mountains also are pretty poor places for fossilization.
They need to find a damn fossilized tar pit in the jungle already. Get some ancient fossils. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, and a lot of creatures in the series are pieced together with very fragmentary remains. Like a lot, that weird head shape of Tappy Draco in the 1st season, totally speculative. They have not found its head, and another pterosaur, only 3 vertebrae were all they had of the entire creature.
Yeah, that's true.
So basically, the way they built the rest of the creature was they saw that this isn't as dark as, so they gave it features that were common for other members of its family.
Right.
That's kind of that's the only way to do it a lot of the time, because very rarely do you have like a complete fossil of any creature. Not only do we have very few creatures actually cataloged, a small percentage of creatures that are around, but we often have to piece them together with fragmentary remains, and often we kind of like fill in the gaps by just kind of looking at a close relative of it. Like a good example of that, one thing I found out recently was that the first Tyrannosaur arms weren't discovered until 1989. And that kind of confused me because I remember depictions of Tyrannosaurs well before 1989 that had it as short arms with two fingers. How they know that before they found the arms? The answer is that they found a Tyrannosaur relative called Gorgosaurus back in the 1920s, and they found its arms. And they saw this creature is they saw that it was a similar animal. This creature is a relative of Tyrannosaurus Rex. So if it has small two-fingered hands, then so does Tyrannosaurus Rex. And then in 1989, that was confirmed.
Yeah, no, that happens a lot.
Yeah, phylogenetic bracketing, they call that.
Pretty great stuff. I really liked how. Let me see what else there was. That was awesome. Who was the one? The giant, the X-fish. That was terrifying.
Oh, Ziphiophilles, I think it was. Yeah, those fish. Yeah, they were like 20 feet long almost. They're about as big as a great white shark. Those things were pretty nasty.
Absolutely terrifying.
You want to know why they say in the show that they sometimes swallow things that are too big for them? Because we found a fossil of one that tried to swallow another fish that was so big it choked to death, and then it died, and we found its fossil. So not only did this thing die due to extreme stupidity, but thanks to fossilization, the stupid way it died has been immortalized for millions of years.
It's like those glutton toads in Africa that just eat literally everything, even if it doesn't fit.
Yeah. Try to swallow the thing, and it got caught in its throat. And for a fish to choke, is pretty amazing because they don't have like a windpipe. Somehow this fish managed.
Because he couldn't move, he couldn't get flowing water through there anymore. He clogged up his gills.
Yeah, he swallowed something so big.
They found these days they found grouper, which can get way bigger than you think they can. Dead inside of the mouth of a great white shark, and the gills are blown out of the shark because of the grouper.
Bit off more than it could chew. There's a reason why gluttony is considered a sin.
Right? No, well, like grouper, they'll frill their fins up real hard right into your gills and thrash around and shit. That's the theory, anyway.
Right.
It's fish mutually assured destruction.
Yes, and I like that Hapsagornis and I'm kind of I don't know if they should have called it Hapsagornis because although Hapsagornithines were around to the end of the Cretaceous, Hapsagornis as a genus itself lived 80 million years ago, and thus is way too old to be in the show. But you can assume that it's like a relative which were still around to the end of the Cretaceous.
Oh yeah, no, they definitely have fossils of their like incomplete fossils of relatives, don't they?
Oh yeah, they do. They were like a group of toothed birds that took to the water, kind of like penguins today, and they're believed to have lasted until the end of the Cretaceous, but they perished in the mass extinction.
Hapsagornis are goofy, great little guys, and we have things a lot like them alive today.
Penguins, yeah, they're the penguins of the time.
No, even more like they weren't even more like penguins. They are there's a fishing bird type that looks way more like Hapsagornis than penguins do.
You mean like the flightless cormorant?
Yes.
Yeah, that probably is more similar to the Hapsagornis because both use their feet to propel them through the water as the primary way, whereas penguins use their wings as flippers.
How do I spell this animal's name again? Cormorant.
I'm not sure exactly off the top of my head.
it's a big storm where I am, man.
Oh, that sucks.
It's pretty cool.
That is pretty cool.
Cormorants. Yeah, a lot like cormorants.
Yeah, there's a flightless species in Galapagos that kind of swim in a similar way. But
And they're really awesome fishers, too. If you ever see them swimming around and catching fish, they're pretty dope.
yeah,
They're like re-evolving penguins, but, more like more snaky penguins.
yeah. Penguins have actually supposedly been flightless for like 62 million years, so they became
That is a long time.
Yeah, they became flightless pretty quickly after the Cretaceous. After the Hapsogornithans disappeared, like there was just a niche open for them.
Yeah, they've changed a lot too from the information I've seen about them. That's things about birds. A lot of them will they'll change fast, but while sticking to the same thing.
Right.
Which is very interesting.
It is.
Because there's some animals that will change. Like, what's the end of DNA strands called?
The end of DNA strands?
Yes.
I'm not sure. Oh, the telomeres.
Telomeres. So there's telomeres will change a lot, or very slowly between species. Sometimes like birds' telomeres don't change a lot, but birds themselves change a lot.
Interesting.
Which is very trippy. Meanwhile, current crocodile we have changes a lot, but current crocodile we have has been around for quite a while. Like, he didn't really evolve from the land variants of crocodiles. He just kind of evolved from other crocodile morphs.
Uh-huh. One kind of nitpick I will say about the show is Attenborough kind of screwed up the narration in the scene with those they were kind of like ancient duck relative in the North America episode. You see them in the river, and Attenborough points to the troodontids. They're there, the pectilodon, and he says there are dinosaurs here too. That line kind of implies that birds aren't dinosaurs, and that's kind of a fuck up.
I don't know. I think they're so different. It's silly to keep calling them that by a common name.
He should have said there are other dinosaurs here too.
I don't know, dude. I think birds are different enough that a different common name is needed. Birds are awesome.
Because even Jurassic World Dominion got that fact right. There's a character who says technically all birds are dinosaurs. So you shouldn't be scientifically outmatched by Jurassic World Dominion, Attenborough. Sorry.
To be fair, that is horrendous.
Yes.
Can we just give this sin to Jurassic World Dominion instead of Attenborough?
Can we what?
Can we just give that sin to Jurassic World Dominion instead of Attenborough? Just to add another sin to Jurassic World Dominion?
Yeah, imagine him narrating Jurassic World Dominion. It would be, and then we find these giant grasshoppers get set on fire, yet still manage to fly somehow because of fucking magic.
Because movie needs to movie. I don't fucking know. Can't believe I'm working here. I'm David Attenborough.
Right.
Dude, no, there was some actor, I can't remember who, but he's really good. And they asked him if he was ever going to go into Marvel.
Uh-huh.
And he was like, I don't need to do Marvel or DC. They're like, well, why not? He's like, I don't want to. Did you imagine Marvel getting a hold of Attenborough?
Yeah, Attenborough's a picky mofo. He turned down narrating Walking with Dinosaurs because he thought it was too speculative. back in the 90s, he thought the idea didn't work, but he kind of changed his mind in that regard, obviously. So when he makes when he agreed, and he said that working on Prehistoric Planet he regards as like the best project he's ever worked on.
That's pretty awesome praise.
That is often praise given Attenborough's line of work, because he's got a Planet Earth 3 out also at the end of the year. And I imagine,
to be fair,
it'll be kind of depressing talking about how mankind is killing the world and yada yada.
Right. So, like, does he go to these places and studios as an old man and talk and do the voiceovers, or does he have a studio in his house?
Oh no, he's still surprisingly active even into his old age. I saw one. This was from 10 years ago, like from 2013, but he still would have been like in his late 80s, so still not a young guy. And he's still standing in front of this rhino that's right behind him, doing a scene. He's like, are we sure it's calm? Because I'm not as spry as I used to be.
He's like, just remember, I am old.
Right, because when an animal kind of got a little bit aggressive with him, like I remember in 1990s Trials of Life, he would have been like around 60 at the time. He was filming next to an elephant seal, and one of them it starts to like go after him for a second. He just jumps out of its way like shit.
He's like, oh fuck this.
But like 23 years later, he's like, I'm not as spry as I was then. So if this thing charges, I'm probably dead.
Yeah, no, I'd like to see him do more dinosaur stuff.
Actually, well, he's actually got another another prehistory documentary coming on Nova later this year, where they found a new fossil of a Jurassic pliosaur, a pretty big one too, like 15 meters in length. And the Attenborough's doing like a presentation on it for Nova.
Cool.
It could be out in a few months. I'm sure the animation in it won't be as good as Prehistoric Planet, but it still should be a fun program.
Hey, so I gotta leave around 8-ish.
Okay.
So I wanted to ask, have you read the book? Oh man, what was it? Wolfchild. It's a prehistory book. It's pretty great.
Not sure. I read Attenborough's book, A Life on Our Planet. Listen to his audiobook. And it's surprising how, for a man who was 94 when he wrote the book, just kind of how lucid he is in his thoughts. One line I love, he talks about when he was a boy in the British countryside. Says, when I was a boy, I dreamed of traveling around the world, seeing all the wild places. And it gives me great joy to say I've spent my life doing exactly that.
Nice.
So, if that's a good lesson there. If you can only live once, do it well.
Wolf Brother is an awesome prehistory book that is read by Ian McKellen.
Ah, cool. By Magneto.
Yes. And you should listen to it. They have audiobooks of it on YouTube. I'll send them to you. Have you read any prehistory age books that are like fiction?
Fiction? I read Clan of the Cave Bear. That was pretty good.
Clan of the Cave Bear.
Yeah, it's an interesting one about a Cro-Magnon girl who's adopted by a family of Neanderthals some 30,000 years ago.
They made a movie out of it.
Yeah, it was a very interesting book, and there's definitely some political subtext to it, as it kind of portrays this Neanderthal society. Basically, is kind of very rigid in their kind of traditions, and their spiritual beliefs, and kind of saying that it would be their downfall because they couldn't really adapt to change. Whereas Ayla, the Cro-Magnon girl, she was more adaptable. And how the Neanderthal society is very fiercely patriarchal, which is probably true.
What do you bet somebody made a porn parody of that?
Oh yeah, well, probably.
Yeah. It has a movie.
Oh yeah, it features Neanderthals and Cro-Magnons fucking in a few scenes.
Oh my god!
And that did happen. We have proof that there was interbreeding between modern Homo sapiens and Neanderthals. We have proof of that. Yeah. I mean, given how many people have many dudes have fucked sheep today, I mean, you're surprised that a chick with a slightly large nose and forehead would be too much? Come on.
There's people that do worse than sheep, unfortunately. So yeah, fair enough.
Yeah, so I'm sure. Yeah, there are a lot. Men would still fuck the Cro-Magnon. Sorry.
So in this book, it's based on human civilization like 12, 13,000 years ago, where some areas were first popping up with land, like they were still ancient tribal people. But also there's like trippy forest demons and stuff running around, pagan style. And it features people battling these spirits and winning over them.
So it sounds more like a fantasy book than a prehistory book.
The weird part is there's only these demonic entities, but everything else about it is prehistory. Like, these guys are nomad travelers while fighting these things off. Hunting deer and skinning them and traveling hundreds of miles a day, walking.
Right. Well, another thing I would mention back to Prehistoric Planet is the scene where those two, like, what were they called? Shit. The two, like, small iguanodontoids that get on that raft. That get sent out to sea. Attenborough says how they could be like pioneers and eventually found a new species, but we know they won't, because even if they do like find an island and like establish a colony, they're not going to last for more than a few thousand years, because something's coming that'll prevent them from evolving into a new species.
Hey, that's enough. That's pretty awesome, though, ain't it? They basically screw up. Like, if you won that $3 billion jackpot, would you not be tempted to buy a private island and build your own house and fuck off?
Possibly, but I'm saying they won't be isolated anywhere to found their own species, because the asteroid will definitely come before then. And that's the thing. Both seasons of Prehistoric Planet never mention the asteroid. Attenborough never meant. There's no sense of impending doom to this program at all, even though it's set not too far before it's going to hit.
Right. Maybe that was what they were hoping. They could move on to post. Maybe they can do a season on post, like pre and post meteor hit.
Yeah, I'm kind of hoping, but then again, there's the creator of Walking with Dinosaurs is doing a series called Surviving Earth that's coming out next year that supposedly will talk a lot about mass extinctions. So I assume that will cover the KT mass extinction pretty heavily.
That would be awesome. No, because they found fossils. Haven't they found fossils of Triceratops with what appeared to be like rocks in their guts from the time of the KT line?
No, they have not found any Triceratops that can be definitively dated to the meteorite.
I read fake news.
No, there was an animal that was found, but it was a fish. They found a fish, a fossil, that had little bits of molten glass in its gills that dated to the meteorites. So that fish is actually the only animal we found that definitively we know died on the day of the impact.
That's pretty awesome.
Yes. So it wasn't a Triceratops, but they did find a fossil that dated to the day of the impact, a fish.
Yeah, me too.
There was another dinosaur fossil that some thought might have been from the time of the impact, but there's nothing like definitive that links it to that. It could have been, but maybe not.
All right. Well, unfortunately, I do got to be getting going soon.
All right. Thank you for joining me, Reckless Trucker, and everyone watching, to my FBI agent, and to the crew of Prehistoric Planet. Peace out.
Peace out. Later, bro.